Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Transforming Traditions part of our program. In this specific part section of the symposium, artists whose work is inspired by historical forms, techniques, or practices in West Africa today will be explored. Before we dive into our presentations, I want to give a thanks to our sponsor for this section, John C. Campbell School of Folkcraft. Thank you so much for supporting this program, Tides and Waves West Africa. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you to the rest of our sponsors as well. This first presentation is by an artist named Phil Omodamwen. Phil Omodamwen is a sixth generation Benin bronze caster in Nigeria. Born in Benin City in 1971 into the Adamwen family, which belongs to the Benin Bronze Guild. His family came into the guild in 1504 AD and proudly keeps alive over 500 years of heritage in bronze casting and has brought a lot of innovations to the bronze casting industry in Benin City. He was born and has lived all of his life in a residential apartment that housed their family foundry in the foundry, and it was on the same premises that they brought up. He started sculpting when he was a kid because he grew up in the workshop. He has many exhibitions. He has had many exhibitions locally and internationally, and his works are on display in various museums in Europe and America. Bill is also an advocate for the reparations, restitution, and repatriation of Benin bronzes that were forcefully taken away by the British in 1897. Here's Phil's presentation.
Good day, everyone. My name is Phil Omodamwen, a sixth-generational broadcaster from Great Benin Kingdom. I'm talking on transforming tradition of broadcasting in Great Benin Kingdom. Broadcasting in Great Benin Kingdom dates back to the ancient times of our glorious history. The exact date it commenced is lost in the memory of our greatly cherished ancestors. It is, however, a record that we as a guild received the royal charter from His Royal Majesty Oba Ogwola, who reigned from 1280 AD to 1295 AD. This makes our guild one of the oldest and certainly the most enduring in the world. The king had absolute authority over the artists and kept a group of broadcasters known as Isama or court artists in his palace that produce exquisite plaques, sculptures, and ceremonial objects for the king. These works were made to serve different purposes, from religious and ceremonial to decorative and commemoration. However, in the last century, Benin bronze has experienced a transformation, shifting from traditional practices to adapt to contemporary challenges and opportunities. Though, as at that time, the Sama were regarded as assets, but their sense of craftsmanship was secretly guided so as not to pass the knowledge to other persons outside the royal house. My ancestral father happened to belong to the guild, just like every other sacred institution in Benin, where the first son inherits his entire father's legacy as a primogeniture. The Sama was not an exception. The father to son attachment has been coming down my family line since the reign of Oba Esige. It is with a sense of gusto that my family, that is the Omodamwen family, still keep alive over 500 years heritage of bronze casting. Worthy of note is that the daughters or their sons are not allowed to learn this art, as the tendency to pass the knowledge to their husband is very obvious. The history of the empire is replicated in these works, from the monarchy to events and people that shaped them. The bronze works depicts and still do to date the extent that the Oba is held as a representative of the gods on earth. These artworks were often cast using the lost wax process method. The materials and techniques used were closely guarded secretly and passed down through generations. Since the massive exposure to the world from the 19th century, their beauty, sophisticated creativity, and uniqueness have continued to mesmerize the world. This exposure came as a fallout of the Benin British Colonial War of 1897, that is the punitive expedition. The victorious British forces looted over 5,000 exquisite Benin art pieces from the palace and homes of the nobles. As part of their war booty, the monopoly the upper had over the art was finally broken. This was premeditated. The colonial adventurers anticipated for a tough and expensive war with the Beninese. To sway their own government, the adventurers assured that there were enough treasure to be looted as war booties to pay for the cost of the war. In fulfillment of this, several of these works were auctioned publicly in London in 1910 to offset the cost of the war. This marked the beginning of the dispersal of great arts of Great Benin Kingdom, and they adorn the museums of many countries of the world today. Thereafter, the bronze-casters had the freedom to commercialize their products. This was a significant transformation in Benin broadcasting. In the past, these artworks were primarily created for cultural and religious purposes, and their value was often measured in cultural rather than monetary terms. However, with globalization and the art market's expansion, Benin bronze works have become a valuable commodity in the international art world. The commodification of Benin bronze works has brought international recognition and economic opportunities to us, the bronze casters, in our kingdom. Auctions and exhibitions featuring Benin bronze works have attracted collectors and enthusiasts worldwide, raising the profile of the unique art form. This has encouraged some of us in the guild. Benin bronze art has undergone a significant transformation in recent decades as it transitioned from primarily traditional practice to a global commodity. This transformation has brought both opportunities to us and our community, while the commercialization has raised awareness and economic prospects. It has also raised ethical concerns regarding the repatriation of looted artifacts, the fusion of tradition and innovation, as well as efforts to retrieve ancient techniques, is helping to ensure that Benin bronze works continues to strive while respecting its rich heritage. Ultimately, the transformation of these works form and represent the resilience of cultural tradition in a rapidly changing world. In conclusion, I have undergone significant growth in my bronze career. In the last 2 decades, I have had the opportunities of producing functional artworks and the opportunity of collaborating with Red Gold Import and Export and also Lagos Space Program, crafting jewelries for them and engaging in various transformative projects. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you so much, Phil, for that amazing presentation, exploring many years of tradition, which is very powerful. Our next presenter is an artist named Ebenezer Akakpo. With over 20 years of experience, Ebenezer is a seasoned designer with a unique blend of industrial and jewelry design expertise. As the founder and lead designer of Akakpo design group, he brings his origins from Ghana, his education in Italy, and his qualifications, including a BFA in metalsmithing and jewelry from the Maine College of Art and Design, as well as an MFA in industrial and product design from the Rochester Institute of Technology. His creative endeavors revolve around using Ghanaian symbols of craft to culturally resonate and personally meaningful and bring meaningful patterns on functional art pieces and exquisite jewelry. A significant accomplishment in 2022 was his triumph in the national contest for his bust job design, skillfully integrating traditional Ghanaian symbols. This remarkable creation now embellishes Congress Street in Portland as a beacon of hope and friendship while exemplifying his unique ability to blend tradition with contemporary design. His presentation will illuminate the profound interplay between his cultural background and skill set by tracing a trajectory from age old influences to contemporary reimaginings. By exploring these facets, he aims to highlight how tradition and innovation coexist in his work and highlight the symbiotic relationships between his heritage and his creative aspirations. Here's Ebenezer's presentation.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, SNAG. I am honored to have this opportunity to discuss my work with you all today at the SNAG Virtual Symposium. My name is Ebenezer Akakpo. I am a native of Ghana. I currently reside in Portland, Maine, where I own and run two brands, Akakpo and Company and Main Culture Apparel under the Akakpo Design Group LLC. In my student days, I struggled with categorizing my work, lacking a clear framework. However, with hindsight, I have realized that my true passion lies in storytelling. I want to present two images that hold significant and personal meaning for me. Following that, I'll provide concise insights into three projects that compelled me to expand my creative horizon beyond jewelry making. This initial image formed an integral component of my thesis. It was titled The Leaning Tower of Pisa. The inspiration behind this creation stemmed from the intricate scaffolding system I encountered during the massive Big Dig project in Boston. Being that I've lived and schooled in Italy and at the time living in New England, I marveled at the idea of combining the scaffolding intricate design with the iconic Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. This artwork gained recognition and was featured on a poster distributed by SNAG, which remained in circulation for several years. The second photo here captures a moment from my infancy but carries much deeper significance. During my second year at the Maine College of Arts, my classmates and I took a class trip to Boston Museum of Fine Arts. My assignment was to dissect Van Gogh's painting, Woman Who Rocks the Cradle. We were supposed to decode the artist's thought, unravel the significance of the colors that he used, and discern the essence of each brush stroke. My baby photo might seem worlds apart from a masterpiece on canvas, but it serves as a similar purpose whenever I gaze upon it. I ponder what my infant eyes were drawn to and whether in those early moments I contemplated the person I would someday become. Adding to who I have become, I did like to share how two influential figures in my life, my two dads, I call them my two dads, shaped the person I am today. These two remarkable men instilled in me a unique blend of creativity and analytic thinking that has guided my path. Unfortunately, I only have a photo of my biological father. He was my dad, a creative dad who wore many hats, and he served both as a chief of my village and as an architect at his own firm. His dual roles exposed me to a world where creativity and innovation were celebrated. On the other side of the spectrum, my analytic dad, a mathematics professor, played a pivotal role in my upbringing. I lived with him on a student campus, a technical school campus, until I turned 18. It was within the structured confines of the campus that I truly began to appreciate the art of exploration and the belief that I could become anything I aspired to be. This environment was my playground for nurturing creativity and honing analytic thinking. I often found myself engrossed in the intricacies of these diverse disciplines, absorbing knowledge and insight that would later prove invaluable. My journey is a testament of the harmonious coexistence of the creativity or the creative and the analytic thinking. And now to my first project I want to talk about. I draw inspiration from my professional pursuits from the fusion of technology, problem solving, and real world issues, using user contributions and steadfast dedication to innovation. Simultaneously, I strive to push the boundaries of visual language symbols rooted in my native Ghanaian culture. In this particular slide, instead of sketching, I decide to use cardboard to create an outline that is sketched directly on the model to figure out how I want the necklace to lay over the neck, more of a sculptural piece. The idea behind it is to create a sculptural piece around the neck, not necessarily a necklace. And by having the shapes all formed and using masking tape to hold things, it helps me to reiterate very quickly until I get to the point where I deem fit to move on to the next level, which is transforming the idea to CAD. Now from CAD, I'm able to analyze the shape very well and to figure out how I can quickly, with modern technology, using additive or subtractive manufacturing, to quickly process the idea and then bring it to life, making it tangible. And then at the end, I add the symbols from my native country, Ghana, to transform the storytelling. So these are a necklace, and the front piece are held with a magnet, which the consumer or the user decides which symbol speaks to them on that particular day. It's all about how they feel, it's about how they want to express themselves, and so forth. The same idea is also translated into the cuff. Yeah. So this cuff piece is also formed from the same idea of very quickly creating shapes and then integrating the shape with the symbols from my native country, Ghana. Yeah. The second project I want to talk about is unlocking the potential of our community involvement. In addition, my professional journey has led me to a captivating realm where I work closely with children and adults. My mission is to introduce them to the intricate visual language symbols from my native country, Ghana, and also give them a creative space where I encourage them to explore and interpret these symbols in ways that resonate with their unique perspective and experiences. So over here, you see some of the adults and the children engaging themselves in using sketches, like so they are outlining the images using the silhouettes to create different figurines, different shapes based on how they feel. I was intrigued by this lady because she actually took it so seriously. She had to move away from the table to feel the connection with the land. And then at the end, some of them were playing around with the with the reflections, the images from the reflections. And then some were making earrings, some were creating wall sculptures. It was an amazing experience. And then finally, we all came together and took a group shot. Now, quickly for my last project, which I want to talk about. This way of thinking, that is the previous way of thinking and teaching, emerged from a profound scale of exploration, material, and the use of space. One pivotal moment in my journey involved redesigning a bus stop. Little did I know that this project would later be recognized as the best bus stop design in the United States. It was a testament to the power of pushing the boundaries, embracing innovation, and infusing cultural richness into the most or everyday objects. So from this slide, as you can see, because this was my first time working with such a large sculpture, I had to take so many measurements. The challenge was for me to design and add an exoskeleton structure without deforming the shape of the current bus stop. And the challenge for me was to make sure I took enough measurements to allow me to be able to take all those measurements. Because the goal was all about designing an exoskeleton structure to fit the current bus shelter without altering, I was tasked with taking so many measurements to make sure I had enough data to transfer over to the CAD, over to the computer, so I was able to draw my exoskeleton structure fitting the bus shelter. Part of my process was same as a cardboard. I had to use plywood to actually map the structures, making sure the camera was not covered, and also making sure the round pipes was the design. My design was a wraparound where it had no competition, but wrapped around nicely and easy on the eye. So then by taking all those measurements, I moved them over to the computer to have the exoskeleton structure, map out how it was going to look like and look at it from different angles. Then I took those designs and laid them out and tried to figure out what I actually needed, the type of screws that I needed. And I had to present all this to the city to make sure it was okay for me to go ahead and utilize the designs and the structure that I've promised I'm not going to destroy. Then from there, I sent out my designs, which was cut by American Steel. It was a gift. Then I had to go and pick them up and make sure I wanted to make sure the designs that I was working on were actually fitting the way they were supposed to. So that is what you see in the image here. And then I held this up to show scale. Yeah, and then spent a whole weekend cleaning it up. On the right side, we have the metal pieces that will actually hold the designs in place. And then from there, we take the designs over to be powder coated so it would withstand all the different temperature changes and the weather changes in New England. Yeah. And then at the end, we had to go and transport. And just because it's a community project, to involve some other friends who also came to help with the installation. And finally, we stand and take a picture. And then also we saw a gentleman who was feeling very comfortable using the bus shelter. Now, one thing I want to talk about this particular bus shelter is that I use a symbol of hope and a symbol of friendship. The reason is that during the time of designing, manufacturing, producing, and working on all the different details, it was at a time when we were also getting ready for the election, and people were not happy. Families were not talking to each other. The whole community, everything was just falling apart. And the symbol of friendship means that Esen nitakrama, which means the teeth and the tongue, they both reside in the mouth. Once in a while, the teeth will bite the tongue, but they find a way to live interdependently. I figured that was very important to represent that in the community, because we are all from different regions, different countries, but we live in the same place. We are not going to agree on many different things, but we can try to live and work interdependently. And then the symbol of hope means that God is in the heavens listening to our prayers. And I think at a time when we are all struggling, at a time when communities are falling apart and friends and families are not talking to each other, it was a time for us to come together and hope for a better future. And then at the end, I got, published in our local newspaper, and as well as the Yankee magazine and Down East magazine and some other magazines in Sacramento. In conclusion, I hope my presentation today has been a testament to the enduring power of art, culture, and exploration. It is a journey that started with a baby's curiosity or curious gaze and has led me to a world of creative expression where visual language knows no bound. Thank you for joining me on this voyage of self-discovery, artistic exploration, and cultural appreciation. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ebenezer, for that presentation. Now, you all, we're going to join me, Ebenezer, and Phil for a conversation, which is going to happen in sessions. Again, sessions is below the stage on the left side of your screen. We'll be there for about 30 minutes or so, and then we'll take a break and go to our next presentation. But again, right now, you're going to join us three, Phil, Ebenezer, for a joint conversation in sessions. Thank you all so much for joining Transforming Tradition, and we're going to follow up the conversation around transforming tradition in sessions. Thank y'all so much again. See you soon.
Oh, hi. I see Ebenezer's here. Great.
Hello,
There you are. Hello.
Hi.
Great. Well, does anyone have questions? LaMar is moderating this one, so I could step back, but we're all doing other things.
If you all have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat, or feel free to jump in the conversation. You can ask Ebenezer, myself, Phil, once he joins us. Perfectly. I guess one thing to start off the conversation, though.
Hold on. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
I guess one thing to start off the conversation, though, Ebenezer, I'm wondering, could you speak, because I really found powerful in your presentation the discussion of intergenerationality and thinking through how new generations have to sort of learn these symbols and see them in everyday life. I was wondering, can you speak more to how that fuels your practice, if that makes sense?
Yes. Hello, everyone. How was the presentation? This is my first time doing a virtual presentation, so it was a little bit difficult for me to try and figure out how to make it work. So I hope it was okay. Okay.
It was amazing.
Thank you. Now, LaMar, to answer your question, I think I did mention that these are symbols originated from Ghana as well as Ivory Coast. We grew up with the symbols, and I started off as an apprentice jeweler in Ghana. And frankly, every jewelry shop you visited basically has a version of the symbol that they make. Now, I wanted to create something unique, right? But I had no idea how to go about it. And it was until I visited, well, I was in school in Italy when I visited Ponte Vecchio and I saw the heart shape being utilized from jewelry shop to jewelry shop in their own way. You know, it was unique to me. I would say that was the aha moment for me to see the symbols or designs can be manipulated and be unique to each and every shop, right? Up until then, I didn't know that was even something that was possible. I felt like, well, LaMar makes something and then I would just make another version of it because that is what it is, right? So when I got to that aha moment, and it hit me that the heart-shaped symbol is a symbol of patience and tolerance. Without patience and tolerance, there's no love. So to the West, it means love. To Ghana, or where I come from, my tradition, it means patience and tolerance. And that was when I realized that I'm actually sitting on a pot of gold. You know, and then the question then to me was, if I had the capability to manipulate the symbols, first off, maintaining the integrity of the symbols, right? But if I can breathe my own voice in them, if I can bring the modern world into them, how cool are these symbols going to be? And it did not happen right away. This was 1998. It didn't happen right away. It took me all this while to hone in on my technical skills, technical ability, to get to this point. Did I answer your question?
You absolutely did, for
Thank
sure. You provided a lot of context.
Yeah.
Carrie Ann Quick, which is one of our lovely, one of the members of SNAG team here, she asked a question in the chat, which is specifically, what was your motivation to scale up? Are the symbols translated somewhere at the bus shelter?
Yeah. So sometimes as artists, I feel like we need to survive. But we also have all these different ideas at the back of our minds. And we always say, well, I'll take care of it tomorrow. I'll take care of it tomorrow. And one of the things that I thought was very interesting is on my website, you see all these patterns that I've created, right? Now the patterns are inspired by the symbols. But what I realized was that after creating the pattern, the symbol disappears. But then the symbol is still there. The story is still there. And that is what I think is unique to every one of us, like our individuality, right? All the patterns in our lives form stories, and we decide who we want to share with. So this is something that I've always been meaning to do, something larger. Like I want to make something larger, but I didn't have a reason to. And then there was an opportunity for me to sometimes they said to go up, you need to humble yourself, right? So I had to humble myself to be a mentee to another artist / architect. And she kind of tried to push me to get out of my confined space and to begin to explore how those tiny pieces that I've made, how they would look like if they were the larger. And I think that is what led to when I had an opportunity to do the bus shelter. And I wanted, if you look at the presentation, my initial proposal was just to have the pattern printed on silhouettes and then attached to the glass. But then, like we all experience once in a while, sometime around midnight or dawn, I woke up in the morning, I was like, wait a minute. You've always been meaning to do something larger, right? Why are you confining yourself to silhouettes on glass? Why don't you try to push the boundary this time around? Because you don't have anyone telling you it's not possible. So why don't you just push the boundary to go beyond what you always do? And that is what led to the bus stop.
That makes perfect sense. And again, everyone, if y'all have any questions for Ebenezer, please feel free to type them in the chat, or ask a question outright. But also, I guess one thing I'm also curious about, thinking through like an earlier question from one of our previous sessions that Mazi had, there was a conversation around this idea of nomenclature and how people sometimes have specific hats. I'm wondering, well, specifically, we think about Western art practices. Typically, people occupy one realm. How do you envision your art practice specifically, or how would you identify your art practice? Does like a terminology really matter? Do you say you're like an artist, but also in some ways an architect as well, or like you're wearing this sort of pluralistic, I would say, identity, operating in different creative sectors? Could you elaborate more on that?
Ooh. That's a very tough question. It's very simple, but it's a very tough question.
I hear you.
Frankly, I struggle. When somebody asks me, so what do you do? I struggle to give them an answer. When someone calls me an artist, I get mad. When somebody calls me a designer, I get mad. But I know I am something. I know I am doing something, right? And maybe you guys can help me figure out who I am, because it's very difficult for me to actually have a definition of what I do. But I think in simple terms, I'd like to say I like to solve problems. I like to solve problems, and I like to push boundaries, right? And this goes back once again to Italy. So in Italy, I got an opportunity to visit Germany, Munich at the time. There was a show called In Argenta. And once again, for the first time, I came in contact with artists that were actually using technology in their production. And that just blew my mind, right? And then I was like, man, how are these people even able to even think to conceive such ideas? Now, imagine 1998, I was 20, I just turned 22, and I was in Italy, and you find yourself in a space where they have a tree built of rings, about 1,000 rings, and all the stones are set in the wax and then mounted on the tree and then cast. So once the casting is done, the rings come out with the stones already set. That is just mind-blowing, because that is something that I have never experienced or even seen. So from that day, it became apparent to me that in the future, which we are still living, technology is going to revolutionize the way we do design, the way we do art. And that became apparent when I came to Main College of Arts. After the first year, I saw some kids that had already graduated working in a coffee shop. And that also blew my mind, because I was like, I'm coming from Ghana. My father has invested a lot of money for me to come to this school. How am I going to get out of school with a degree and tell my dad I'm working in a coffee shop? No insults, but that is it's going to be a big no-no. So very quickly, I started looking at my strengths and my weaknesses. I knew I had strengths in the technicalities, because I was an apprentice jeweler in Ghana, where we made everything from scratch. So then the question is, what was my weak points? And my weak point was computers. You know, if I was even afraid to touch a computer, I thought if I touched it, it was going to explode. Because at the time, people were still trying to figure out what they were going to do with those boxes, right? So then the question was, how can I push myself doing something that is beyond humanly capable for me, right? So immediately I decided, okay, maybe I need to learn how to use computer, or I need to learn how to build computers. And I went for the latter because I figured if I can build it, I can use it. So whilst at Main College of Arts, I enrolled in a separate school learning how to build and troubleshoot computers. Yeah. And then I waited for and the funny thing is, when I graduated from Main College of Arts, the jewelry shop that I was scheduled to do my apprenticeship or my internship with, they were going to pay me $8.25, and then an hour, and then the certification that I got from computers was going to pay me about almost $15 an hour. So I just decided to go that route. And then luckily, I got the job with Zales, the diamond shop, the diamond store, to be their contract jeweler. So I was being a contract jeweler and also working as an IT person, waiting for the right time where we're going to have a good marriage between design and technology, which was somewhere around 2005, 2006. So that's what took me back to school to study industrial design, where you have that process of, okay, I have the technical ability, but I'm also learning as a designer and applying technology to be something that I don't know what it is yet. Does that help?
Well, that's perfect. And just so we make sure we get Phil in the conversation, our second presenter, Phil Omodamwen's here as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Phil. And Ebenezer, thank you so much for your answer. It was very enlightening.
Yes, sir.
Oh, sorry. Well, we have a question in the chat for Phil. I want to make sure we have time for him to answer it. Just so I make sure I'm reading the right one. Here we go. So Phil, a question that comes from one of our viewers and also presenters named Atanuke. She asked, do you have any women working in the Benin traditional bronze casting space today? Oh, I think you're muted also, by the way. Could you press unmute by chance? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. Just... I'm sorry. Phil, can you hear me? Could you unmute yourself? I'm sorry.
See at the bottom with the microphone? It's red. It's red if you're muted. There we go.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So awesome. So yeah, we had a question that was basically asking, are there any women working in traditional Benin bronze casting today?
No.
Gotcha. I guess to bridge off from you said one?
None.
Oh, none. Sorry, I misheard.
None.
Gotcha.
No.
I guess to bridge off from that question, to think more broadly, what is being done currently in Benin bronze casting to make sure younger generations have access to it?
I do like from what you heard from my presentation. So it's something that has been passed from father to son over the centuries. And I'm afraid the younger generations are no longer having interest in continuing. So that's a problem. And what I think we can do this time is not just an encouragement from me. We are not getting enough encouragement from our government, and we don't have a very good, the environment is not friendly for production. Just so many challenges. So that's why you have our youth trying to leave the shores of our nation, going to Europe through the Mediterranean, to try to cross the desert. So, and another issue we are having right now, we've been trying for a bronze work in Benin not to go into a station. But with the way things are going, I'm afraid in the next 20 years, it might go into a station.
That makes sense. Does anyone else have any questions to add to the conversation? So we can. Um, I guess also. One
Oh,
thing.
I wanted to ask Ebenezer why the title artist or metalsmith made him angry or mad. He used the word mad. Why does that make you mad?
Oh, I don't think it makes. Sorry, let me rephrase. I don't think it makes me mad. I just, I think I get frustrated because I don't really know how to define myself. A lot of people know me as somebody who fixes computer. Some know me as somebody who makes jewelry. Others know me as somebody who designs products for them. So I'm confused.
It's the phrase, the multi-hyphenate. We used that about Mazzy. People that, and LaMar is one also, right? You all have so many different titles.
Yeah. I've had that. Yes, somebody has used that title for me as well. Multi-hyphenate, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's so many. There's so many, and then you can name them all if you want to.
But you could be a polymath, right?
Ooh.
A poly what?
Polymath.
Oh wow, that's a good one.
I guess as a closing question for both of you, um, how do you feel about, in some capacities, I would say materiality plays into your work? I feel like specifically with Phil, you're working with a very specific type of material. Does bronze mean something to you specifically compared to maybe the average person? And in terms of Ebenezer, I'm wondering, you working across metal and different materials, do you have different messages or stories that you want to convey across different materials?
Mr. Phil, you want to go first, sir?
I didn't get the question, please.
You're good. Basically, Phil, I'm wondering, what does bronze mean to you specifically? Does it have a certain like cultural weight or message? Why specifically bronze casting? But I understand it has like a hundreds of years or that thousands of cultural history. But I'm wondering like also, what story or message did your father convey to you that made you interested when you were younger?
So, I don't. If I got your question right, it's like maybe what it meant to us culturally.
I'm so sorry. Repeat what you just said. What you just said. I'm sorry.
Sorry?
Oh, sorry. Basically, sorry. What did you just say? I'm so sorry.
No, I didn't get the question, please.
Basically, I'm guessing. How do I describe it? What does bronze mean to you culturally, if that makes sense?
Oh, okay. Culturally, it means a lot to me because it's part of way of life and in a tradition. So it's something that has, like for me personally, it means everything to me because all my life I've been into these bronze artworks, and it's something I do within my community and for the Royal Household. So it means a lot to me.
You're muted, Lamar.
Sorry, y'all. Thank you so much, Phil. That answered my question perfectly. I'm wondering, Ebenezer, could you also describe how you feel working across materials?
How many hours do you have?
We have like 4 minutes, but like,
Okay.
anything that you could say.
Well, very quickly, this is what I would say. When I was in Ghana, I only worked with gold, 18 karat gold. Then I came to the US, and when I started making jewelry, I was making only gold or platinum. There was a point in time, if you asked me to make a ring for you in silver, I would not even do it. I will not touch it. But then going back to school and studying industrial design changed everything. All right. And it also coincided with the time the economy in the US all like fell apart, which was 2008, 2009. Manufacturing was down. People were selling their gold. A true story. I was at a French jewelry shop when a lady came to sell her wedding and engagement ring, and she was shaking when she was taking the rings off. And I felt so bad. And I was like, man, how can my friend even do this? Like buy this rings from this lady. And I said to him, if it were me, I would tell her, I'll keep your ring. When you find money, you come back and take it back. But people don't care, right? But then around the same time, there was Pandora. Then there was Alex Anani. And then there was another lady in California. So I was kind of following their trend. And I realized that people were moving away from expensive material to storytelling, right? So the storytelling was becoming more important than what the material is. And it helped because when I was at RIT, we did a study of material where you take either plastic or something that you're not familiar with, and you push the boundary of what it is, what it can do, what the properties of that material is. And I think that has been vital in what I do today, right? So I'm able to, I work with cardboard. I work with a community to create their own artwork. And it helps because by using cardboard, somebody is going to just throw it away. But I'm taking that cardboard, I'm giving it a second life. And for people to feel not threatened, but feel free to experiment and to play with. So when it comes to material, depending on what the customer wants, that's the direction I will go. But it's also very important to me to not worry, to feel free to be able to create something, right? So that is why I make coasters with felt. I play with wood a lot. And then also I play a lot with cardboard. So it gives me that freedom to make mistakes and to fix them. Is that good?
That was perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ebenezer. Thank you so much, Phil, for this conversation. You all, we're about to bridge into a 15-minute break, and we'll reconvene around 5:50 Eastern time. I want to make sure. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Yes, we're going to reconvene at 5:50. I'm so sorry. That was a weird technical glitch on my end. And we'll reconvene to explore another program, sort of our program exploring fresh focuses. And then, we'll meet back on stage at 5:50 Eastern time. Thank you all so much. Thank you again to John C. Campbell School of Folk Art, who was our sponsor for this program, Transforming Traditions. And thank you so much, Phil and Ebenezer, for this conversation. It was really, really enlightening. And y'all are just an inspiration, I think, to younger generations to keep up the work of metalsmithing. And I really hope people get to see these talks. I really hope so. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.